I think it's high time I gave up trying to guess what order these M-Zone Solilab games were originally released in. This one, about a journalist who retraces the steps of Bonnie and Clyde while working on a book about their crimes, has elements of the clever early games and the mediocre later ones in equal measure. Even if I was able to figure out where it fit into the timeline, would it really tell me anything that the game itself doesn't? So I'll refocus on what we're really here to talk about: the hidden object criteria. Almost entirely, these are some of the most random, cheating-intensive screens I've ever encountered. Items are strewed in every direction, hanging off walls, hiding behind cars, difficult to find at the best of times and completely impossible at others. I can hardly remember a time I leaned so hard on the hint button as I did in this game. And more than once the items are so ridiculously concealed that the game would put a glowing circle around the object and I'd still have no idea what I was looking at. It's puzzling, and not in the good way. I know hidden object games have come a long way since this was made, but I can't imagine that there was ever a time when it was acceptable to have an item that was, at most, 3x3 pixels big. For the most part, yes. In a canny move that the game frames its hidden object scenes, the player learning the story of Bonnie and Clyde by visiting locations they'd passed through and imagining their activities. Taking the game out of the realm of literal item gathering works for the narrative, ensuring that there's always a plausible reason to be clicking on the screen. That said, the game overstays its welcome by quite a bit. It features a large number of locations and a relatively satisfying narrative thread tying them all together. But then, just as the story seems to be wrapping up, the player is asked to return to every single previous location and find a new set of items on the screen. It doubles the length of the game for no real narrative purpose, serving to frustrate more than entertain. The puzzles are something of a mixed bag. There's a few sliding block puzzles in which the player has to move an item to a better location, and they largely fit in the narrative. But then match 3 games show up for no real reason, and things get weird with an engine assembly minigame that makes little sense, expecting the player to know what every part of a car's innards are called with no real prompting or hints. It's just awkward to do. The game functions passably as long as it sticks to hidden object scenes, and they do make up the vast majority of the game's content. This puzzle, in which the player has to reenact the escape route that Bonnie and Clyde used to dodge the cops. There isn't one, so no. If its hidden object scenes were a little better constructed, and if it didn't drag on well past its welcome, I'd put Bonnie and Clyde alongside Jack the Ripper as one of the more interesting games from this pack. As it is, the game does little to distinguish itself from the rest. If you're looking for pure hidden object puzzle gameplay and nothing else, there's a lot of it here, but that's pretty much all the game has to offer. Public Enemies, Bonnie and Clyde, is available as part of the Microids 12-in-1 pack. This review is based on a copy of the game purchased with my own money. If you'd like to watch the playthrough that led to this review, just click on the rectangle that allows you to do that. You can find other hidden object game reviews elsewhere on this playlist. Au revoir.